2024 light show walkthrough. Here we go. The main box is the same as last year. Still has the radio control on the back side of it. Still has that Ethernet cable that goes inside the house normally. Of course, that little box is the supplemental power for that matrix. Thought about changing that over to a Falcon this year because I had a lot of freezes and having to do restarts with the Hinkspicks, and also just a lot of the forced firmware updates ended up freezing things up. Didn't affect me too much, but still a little scary. That could happen. Next year, this is where the Showstopper mini trees will be. Not sure where those floods will go. Might keep the floods there and point them up higher. Not sure. Ignoring the fact that's crooked for right now, that's my own fault because I did it by myself. Should have asked for help. I want to upgrade this from rope. Hell, there's rope right through there. I want to upgrade that from rope to a ratchet strap. Going to extend this archway pixels down some. That's 1/4 inch PEX tubing. So I probably need to get some kind of PEX connector, some kind of extension, so I can come all the way down to about here. I don't know how much in the video you can see that, but probably do that before it even comes down, because that's a good 2 feet, maybe 3, several lights. Snowflakes stayed up really well this year. I had to redo the connection, and also I really tightened it down a lot left and right. Noticed I used zip ties this year, not monofilament. The zip ties disappear at night. Can't even see them. With the lights up there, I do have a frame in the center around the classroom. I have a sub-pixel that's out. It won't show red. I think it's about right there. It's definitely on the right side of it as you look at it. Got to replace that. Down here in the garden, I did it in the X-Lights layout already. That I'll probably move these stars back. Maybe the corners stay where they are, but the middle one ends up almost halfway into the garden. Mainly just to try to fill what is a very, very dark space at night. Of course, this box sits here behind my shadow. That's the same as last year. That entire white mesh stuff hides that massive snake, which I'll probably, when I take down this year, we'll probably try to keep it all together. A few parts of it were separated last year. I'm not sure why I separated them. No reason to. The whole thing goes up. Nothing up top is changing this year, so that won't be a big problem. This was the first year using the Pixel Forest with this new way where I built it on PVC frames. It's actually in 3 segments, although quite honestly, it was a mess to put up. 2024 was the year I had surgery, so I was crawling around on my hands and knees having to do this. I would assume if I was able to walk, it would have been a lot easier, but I wasn't, so it wasn't easy to do. Still, I like the idea. It kept them mostly straight. You can see, looking sideways, you can see a little bit of where some are further back than others, but from the front, you really don't notice it. They look like they're in line. This was a mistake I made when I put these together this year on the outline. That should not be overlapping like that. That line should not be sticking past. It should all be, the corner should meet. That light right there should be, next in line to this one. The solution for that is one of 2 things. I either need to take this line here and bend it ever so slightly out on that angled piece. A little tough because at the other end of that's a solid 90, or more likely at that end, that's also an angled connector, and this entire piece needs to angle back towards the garden more. If it angles towards the garden more, it's going to hit this in a different spot. Again, I was on hands and knees when I noticed that, so kind of did the best I could. big candy canes. Talking to myself for next year. If you notice, they're several inches off the ground. That was on purpose. They actually really look better whenever they're up a bit higher. You get to see the bottom. And I have a hummingbird that's over here on that flower. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but I can sure hear it in the headphones. I added these two Wise cameras this year on the back of that tree. I don't know if I can see that in the video, but I added those two cameras and they're just plugged in to the power down there. This box is going to get changed a little bit this next year because of someone I have to add to it. It may not change so much, I just add a second box because of the way the rings are going to go up. There will be an extra box right there, so there's at least one extra cable that has to be run, but that I think is already in the notes. And sure looks ugly from behind, I can tell you that much. The bushes, both these two bushes and that bush right there, will be very different next year. They're going to be set up as pixel cubes, and part of that means I'll have to really keep the top of the bushes trim to that brown section on both sides. Not so much a problem on the left side, the garden side, because that bush just grows, and I don't know if it's gotten any taller this last year, but I'll definitely have to figure something out because I'm not really going to get 3 or 4 sides out of that. I think that's going to end up being almost just a sheet of matrix panel material like that clear panel, but I'll use the black stuff I have, and it'll probably be draped over the top of it. I can't really imagine what else I can do that's gonna really work. I mean, anyway, we'll see what the prototypes do on that one. These snowflakes under the garage are finally gonna get some attention. I'm gonna redo the top with EMT to make 2 segments, and in the bottom I'll use that existing PVC pole on the bottom. So basically I'll have like a big rectangle. So I have tops and bottom. Then I can hold those snowflakes straight. They won't wiggle as much. There's always an issue with them being crooked and an issue with them flapping a lot. They'll get in front of the security camera, things like that. So I'll fix that. Nothing really different up there on the second floor. Those snowflakes continue to be pushed in underneath the windows. Numbers 1 and 2 are on little stands. That's all labeled, and that's what holds the tension. 3 and 4 don't need the stands because that distance is shorter. That was a little bit of a problem this year because I did that on a lift, and I couldn't get quite as far as 3 and 4, so it was a little tough to do this year, but got it done, looked okay. The outline there above the garage will probably be different next year. I'm thinking of changing that over to either PVC or EMT pipe, and then using the gutter clips from, I don't remember if it's Inspire Light Shows or someone else. I've got a bookmark for it, but he makes gutter clips that can sit on that gutter right there and hold the PVC and the design. So this is unchanged from how I ended last year with the TV. Still running off a Raspberry Pi 4. One thing I want to do different this next year is I want to take this box and I want to modify it. Currently in this box, I have 2 long-range receivers, but I'm never going to need 2 long-range receivers on this Wagon. Frankly, I'm not going to need all that additional power either, just because I'm never going to need that much power. Even if I had to power inject 2 or 3 lines, I wouldn't need 6. But it's there. I don't think there's any real reason to take much away, unless I just had to have it somewhere else. But I'll definitely pull one of these to use over there on the other side. And then in its place, I'm going to mount the Raspberry Pi that hangs out in there, that had a problem in 2024 with it falling off of the back of the TV. Just, I guess the humidity finally got to the gaffer's tape. So I want to take that Pi 4, mount it in here, And then I just need an HDMI cable long enough to go from the bottom of this out to that. And I think that will really fix a whole lot of problems. So the outline under the garage I've had for several years. Last year, I think it was, in 23, I changed it out to maker pipe fittings on the corner. The downside of the maker pipe fittings is they're shorter than what the EMT elbow was. So it ended up making both sides short. So if you're actually in front, you can see that as the bases are put next to the garage with the sandbag, it actually has to go in on both sides to meet the top. And so I have considered what it might be like to expand the pipe out. And I'm not 100% sure if I need to use a union piece to a coupler to connect the pipe together. For example, I might even be able to cut, say for example, I might be able to cut this pipe just drop the coupler in, and that might actually make it long enough. I think I'm only dealing with maybe, let's look at that space, I'm only dealing with a couple inches. So it's possible just by literally putting a couple of couplers in line, it might actually make it long enough to do it without having to now add more pipe. Hopefully that makes sense to myself. But if I do that, I'll at least be able to get another light on each side. And one light here, one light on the other side. And then these legs can go straight again. It probably bothers me more than it bothers anyone else, but it does bother me. And soldering one more or two more lights in there is just not a big deal. That's just not that drastic of a thing. It'd probably be more trouble to extend the EMT because I'd either have to use a coupler or a couple of couplers to make it longer, or I have to get a coupler and like some tiny, 1.5, 2 inch piece of pipe, which again, the coupler itself eats that much pipe. So I'll play around with that and see what I can do. It's not high priority because again, I notice it because I'm standing right here in the middle of the daytime and I'm looking for it. Honestly, even for my eyes at night, I don't see it as much. Megatree, I used a little different setup this year. It looks like it's being held by those feet right there, but they're actually not. Those are just braces. What's actually holding it is, if I can get it in camera view, that orange anchor on the ground. It's tied in currently with the ball bungees, and there's two there in the front, one over on the far side, one on the near side. What I liked about it was the actual anchors are holding the ring down, and then the little legs here are just basically, they're just setting it there until I can mount the anchors and get it tied into the anchors. As I'm standing here, I can really see how this whole ring is too far away from the tree, and that created some problems. We're here at the distance, even my longest bungee bars are under a lot of pressure. And then I get super close and I can't even get enough tension, but that is not related to the distance front to back. That's because the extreme angle of the yard means when I get all the way back here towards the back of the ring, I need to drive the feet down even further that hold it up. And then these anchors, I'm going to be anchored almost right on top of them. I've been trying to look at doing something with a turnbuckle or something like that. I just haven't found something short enough. For example, what's right there, holding the portable hole down to the stake right there, that steel pin, that's too big. As big as that is, if I were to put it down here by that orange anchor, it would actually be too long for as close as it has to be. I think it would work fine there. I don't know that it'd work fine there, so that's going to be an issue because I have to be able to hold that steady. I've toyed with the idea of doing some kind of mount that comes off the base, but the issue is just the angle comes up so sharply that it makes that distance need to be even shorter than it is. The grass is really high right now because of the weeds, but I am just maybe 6 or 7 inches off the ground right here. I think realistically, it's got to be on the ground for it to pull enough tension. Which really means I'm gonna have to get a level after it and really make sure. I think if it's level, even in the back, I'll pull it closer. It's gonna end up back in there, but that should do it just fine. That's gonna be a bit of a challenge this next year. I wanna finally overcome. I wanna get this Megatree solved. And back in there, in the darkness, is the new box I added this year. And this new box, as I move past these lights that I did not know were sitting out here, I would have only assumed a cat or something got back here. But that new box is what powers the right side of the house. That's Jonah's window, outline. Can't remember what else it is, but that was a new box I added. That box we used again. And there's a few open spots there. This was an issue I faced a lot this year. More than any other year, I've had to deal with cats, neighborhood children, everything else. I've never quite had this much trouble with that until this year. I feel like I'm always straightening up something because a kid, usually more than an animal, is coming through here. It's kind of one thing or the other, always happening. So this tree goes back in a sense to looking like what it used to look. I'm going to have the 3 rings on it. The difference is I'm going to make a frame out of EMT that probably will have 2 legs that go down either side of maybe the trunk of the tree, maybe slightly in front. And then the big snowflake and all the little snowflakes will mount to the frame. What I'll have to figure out in prototyping is, of course, the branches come this way. The branches don't just go straight up. The idea of the frame is that the frame lets me mount these snowflakes in such a way to where they're tight, but also where I don't have to fight the tree. Even if I tried to hang snowflakes this year, I'd have zip ties and everything else trying to hang it, and now I've got to, anchor. It's a mess. This particular year, it's fine. The branches are high enough, but I think I'm still gonna have to build it with some kind of angle, some kind of adjustable angle connection, maybe the maker pipe stuff, so that it can angle out a bit. So something else we added this year were the cones that say light show. I probably don't have to remind myself why I did that. This is always a great debate in the family. Which side the Tune 2 sign is going on. This video is just to settle the debate for next year when I inevitably forget which side it goes on. That's the light show. Merry Christmas.